After a particularly good meal on the plain, hake, prawns on a bed of saffron rice and red peppers, and washed down with an agreeable rioja, the soft thump of the wheels on the runway at Barcelona airport jolts me from a dream, reminding me that a gastronomic gut-bashing is about to start. So with scant regard for my waistline, I'm here, at last, to pay homage to Catalonia. Ah, Catalonia, land of Miro, Jose Carreras, Pablo Casals, Salvador Dali, delicious sausages and mountain cheeses, wonderful wines, superb churches, great examples of Romanesque architecture which are scattered around the southern Pyrenees. But the Catalonians, like the Basques, are fiercely independent and terribly proud of their culinary heritage and cock a snook at the rest of Spain. 30 years and more ago, when I was a little boy, midnights in the summer, we used to creep out into the garden, pluck broad beans from the pods there, nick them back into the kitchen, fry some bacon, put the broad beans in them, and have the most wonderful midnight feasts. It's a memory which stays with me forever. It's still one of my favourite dishes. So imagine my delight when I come up here into the Pyrenees and find that one of the local specialities is in fact broad beans with bacon or with belly of pork or even with locally cured Serrano ham. And a little bit of black pudding. So Clive, into the ingredients here, we've got local black pudding, an onion, wonderful fresh broad beans, a bit of belly of pork, some mint, the beans already peeled here in readiness, a bit of salt, a bit of sugar, olive oil, some anisette, and of course, a drop of white wine. So, let's pop the pot onto there. Classically here, by the way, they would cook this in an earthenware dish like this, and then put it in the oven to cook. But I'm camping, or not exactly camping, I'm pretending to camp, so I'm cooking on a little Calagas stove. First thing that goes into the oil, my little bits of bacon, or belly of pork, or local cured ham you could have if you wanted. So the pork's in, we now need some little slivers of black pudding. There they are, as much as you like, as much as you feel like. And they can also go into the pot. Stir those around till they're golden. So they're beautifully cooked. Now into the oil go the broad beans. And a blade of grass, which we don't actually need. But what we do need, a little bit of mint. That goes in. We need a little bit of sugar. Need a little bit of salt. A little drop of white wine. Need the gas right up. There we are. And a little dash of anisette, just a dash. Anisette, by the way, is like pastis or one of those things. A grind of pepper. A quick stir around. Gosh, smells absolutely wonderful. And the lid on for about 10 minutes. Then I shall munch them. It is rightly said that the how and what of cooking are determined by the spirit of the land that has created it. Well, this simple dish takes its character, I'm sure, from the closeness of France. But Catalonia is famous for its many vineyards that grow sharply fresh and fruity grapes to make cava, wine made by the champagne method, and drunk not only by the rich and famous, but everyone. It's quite incredible to think that anyone could conceivably want to blow up a cellar containing 90 million bottles of cava. But you know, that's almost what happened here during the Spanish Civil War. A group of soldiers were staying, hiding down here, hiding from the other enemy, because they were all so confused about who was fighting what, you can't go into the exact details of it. And they thought, what we need to do, strike a blow for the people, blow up the capitalists, and destroy this magnificent cellar. So they started to knock a hole into the wall to put the high explosives in. But then they thought, hold on a second, there's a lot of drink here, let's just have one before we do it. Of course, one thing led to another, and another one led to another, and in the end they were all so bitterly pooped that they got overrun by the incoming soldiers and they never did blow it up. It's quite a funny story, really, isn't it? Might do that again in a minute. Now that's what I call a proper glass of wine. Beautiful. I find myself today in this superb restaurant, Casa Irene, in a wonderful mountain village here in the Pyrenees, where King Juan of Spain himself, no less, comes skiing and comes to this restaurant to eat. He'd probably have this dish, because it is a very typical Catalan dish. It's called pollo a la Catalonia, which is Catalan chicken, and it's cooked with, Clive, please, come in close, wonderful farmyard corn-fed chicken with prunes, with raisins, with pine nuts. It's fried in olive oil, it's seasoned with salt and pepper, and interestingly, finally, it's thickened with this piccata, and in French we would call it a pommade. It is crunched biscuits, pine nuts, toasted almonds, and white wine. At the end of the day, that will actually thicken the sauce. Now then, over here, Clive, hop into this pot here, if you would, and witness the lovely red colour of tomatoes and onions and olive oil and chicken stock. Now back up to me, if you would. This is a sauce I had to get on a little bit earlier because it takes some time to cook. It's olive oil with finely chopped onions, the sweetest, ripest tomatoes, finely chopped, put into there, sizzled to their golden brown, then chicken stock is added. It's left to simmer away while I get on with the rest of the dish, which starts in the frying pan, Clive. Lovely pieces of chicken. Beautifully golden brown, absolutely splendid. Now for the next phase, push the chicken over to one side. And little by little, we add some prunes, okay, into the oil. Let them take a little bit of colour from the oil and the flavour from the oil as well. Stay there, Clive. A few raisins. Okay, sizzle them up a little bit. Then a few pine nuts, like so. And now, you remember the sauce I made earlier, Clive? Back up to me, please. The sauce I made earlier now has to be strained over this lot using the chinoise. Now, we'll put that onto a slightly lower heat, so I'm moving over to your left. I now have to let that simmer away for about 40 minutes so the chicken is completely cooked, and just before it is cooked, I take this lovely mixture, as I remind you, the biscuits, the toasted almonds, and the pine nuts, mashed up with white wine, will go into this pot, not at this stage, into this pot later to thicken the sauce. So effectively, the dish is finished. Back on the pot, please. Savoured in the afternoon sunlight, the dish tasted even better than it looked. But I had to talk in French because my Spanish is non-existent. However, they liked my dish so much, they actually put it on the menu. A compliment, I reckon.
La sauce est très bien liée, très très bon.
Ah bon. Madame, ça vous plaît?
En effet, très bon. En plus,
It's true, it's a classic Catalan dish, but with the Moorish influences of nuts and fruit. And for once, that old cliché, very Moorish, had some real significance. No, it's fair enough. Quite frankly, if he's going to cook it, he can bloody well cook it. This is one of those little scenes when the director changes his mind and wants someone else to cook. On my show.
Oh, don't be so silly. I mean, there's more to life than just a... You know, what is it? There's a 2-minute sequence, huh? Just 2 minutes. And he is Spanish after all.
Cook it yourself.
Well, I'm not going to cook it myself. He's going to cook it. Don't be so silly, Keith. I mean, there's more to life than that, all right?
Bueno, okay. We have the potatoes, and we have a little bit of garlic for the flavor. And it has to be golden garlic.
I knew this would happen. I knew it. I mean, it's not as easy as it looks, you see. You want to hear about the birds and the bees and the bears and the countryside and fishing and culture and architecture. It's not just a question of throwing a few eggs into a pan.
They've made omelettes in there.
The difficult thing is to talk and to do at the same time.
Well, you said you could do it last
Yeah.
night.
Okay, I will.
I still haven't forgiven him for that time in San Francisco when he said even a puppet could do it. Well, people can't, you see. It takes a lot of skill to do that sort of thing. He'll be losing his rag any minute now. You wait and see.
And we take it on our knapsacks and we go walking up the mountains and we see the wolves, the bears, the eagles, and we sit down there and we look at life in the Pyrenees where nobody's been before. There are no roads.
And by the river, we open the knapsack and we start to eat the Spanish
Now
tortilla.
you do it as you can do it.
Huh.
Put in the potato.
Honestly, it's a lot more difficult than people think. But after Jose Luis had fried the potatoes in olive oil and a generous amount of garlic, he soaked them in some beaten eggs, about 10 of them, for a couple of minutes.
Well soaked. And
What he's trying to say is once the eggs have infused with the oil, the garlic and the spuds, you tip them back into the pan and cook it. Meanwhile, I was enjoying a frosted glass in the shade a few k's down the road.
1, 2, and 3. Wow, good. This is the Spanish omelette, Spanish tortilla with potatoes and garlic. I hope it tastes good and that Floyd and all the crew are not very upset, very angry because an amateur is, well, doing something in a kitchen in the Pyrenees.
Well done, Jose Luis. We'll let you know. One thing I do pride myself on is that I have built-in radar when it comes to finding good restaurants that reflect not just the food of the region, but also the spirit, the humour and colour of the place. Fabulous chickens, by the way. Here in Barcelona, the famous Los Caracoles, a truly fantastic restaurant that cooks wonderful Catalonian food. And for 150 years, it's been a meeting place for opera singers, artists, writers, and aspiring politicians. It's a place where you get instantly relaxed, as if under the spell of the great smells that waft from its open kitchen. You've caught me at the bar again. I don't spend all of my time at the bar. It's just in between kitchens. And if you want to see a kitchen which is outstanding, still coal-fired, it's like something out of Mervyn Peake's Gormenghast. It is Swelter's kitchen. Come on, Clive, let's have a look at this, because it's truly, I mean, I've seen a lot of them, but this one has really impressed me. It's outstanding. Come on. They do say if you can't take the heat of the kitchen, get out of it. Well, this is one which is outrageously hot. Look at this, a fantastic, huge plate of chicken and peas. Coal fire over there. What's he cooking over there? He's cooking snails over there. There's some clams here. There's a big, fat, juicy close with clams in green sauce with white wine and parsley. Tempted to taste that. Absolutely stunning. Gambas, cigales, salt on the grill, prawns there. What have we got in here? And down here, look, bloody fantastic hake. Is that hake? No, it's bass. It's bass. What's underneath? A leg of lamb, just roasted very simply with potatoes and onions and garlic. I mean, this is a kitchen to beat all kitchens. Look, 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 look. That is a painting. Look at those onions, gold. No, bring it back out. Por favor. The white onions turning brown, the red bleeding tomatoes, the potatoes. And this fish, I know it's difficult, Clive, but it is a real working kitchen. This fish goes on top of that potato, onion and tomato. Pieces of toast, pieces of chicken. More gambas here. This is, for some English eyes, this might not be terribly appreciated, but it's a very small suckling pig, just roasted whole. I mean, you could, back up to me, I mean, you could just munch into that and so enjoy it, couldn't you? Anyway, listen, Clive, do what you will, get all the little shots you need, you know, the chaps working, the things that David, the producer, likes, and I'm going to eat. This kitchen is making an artistic statement too. If it could talk, it would say, this is me, this is what I do, and I do it for you. I make you wonderful snails cooked in tomato sauce and simmered over my big, heavy, black, coal-fired stove. I make you stews of gambas and fish and scallops and clams in white wine and tomato. I pan my beautiful succulent shrimps for you, again over this fierce heat so my colours really come out of my belly. And hake simmered in tomato with mussels, olive oil, garlic and onions. I make my workers so hot they have to drink cider all the way through the service. Mind you, they deserve it. In fact, I got so carried away pretending to be a kitchen there, I got a bit thirsty and a bit hot as well. So I did have a jolly good swig of cider.
Give me a yard. Hey, all ready there.
One of the most popular dishes to start lunch with is this fish soup made with hake or bream, langoustines and clams in a slightly piquant sauce. It's no wonder that great trenchmen make a beeline for the place. It's a gastronomic opera, played every day with Catalonian pride and passion. So I asked my latest greatest chum, Agustin, who's lucky enough to be the owner, to share his thoughts on Catalonian cooking with me.
I mean, we like the real Spanish food. The real Spanish food is not a mixture of French kitchen, Chinese kitchen, or Italian kitchen. No, that's different. We like the natural meat, the natural food. I mean, we like the women's, like you say, the women's. We like a beautiful woman. Never mind if the dress is beautiful or not so beautiful. The most important that's that the woman is pretty, and that's like the food. If you decorate a very good plate, a very nice plate, porcelain plate, a different decoration, but the meat inside is not so good, we don't like. We don't want to be mistaken about that matter.
An afternoon leisurely eating snails, shellfish and suckling pig, drinking more wine than I should have with Agustin and his daughters, made me feel if I'd won one of those lottery tickets where you could be king for the day. Sometimes with me, the wonderful state of euphoria can be a bit dangerous, but I honestly felt that I'd made really good friends here, not just with the people, but the restaurant itself. And so, fortified by a great lunch, it's on to Barcelona's most famous landmark, Gaudi's Sagrada Familia. What it reminds me of is one of those French wedding cakes, the sort they make out of little choux pastry balls, pile up high like ice cream cornets, and then drizzle caramel sugar down the sides of them. Put them out into the sun to bake for about 100 years, and it's cooked or finished. In fact, it's not quite finished. Probably another 50 years, and they'll have it done. Also, you know, the sort of marzipan effect of the thing. It's like Hansel and Gretel, isn't it? You know, when they wander into the woods looking for the witch's cottage. It's spooky, it's Tolkien, it's all kinds of things. It also, because he was way ahead of his time, 10 years ahead of his time, he preempted the whole Art Nouveau movement. And it's so important to Spain and to Barcelona that I'm going to go and buy some books and really research it so I can do one of those really thoughtful, philosophical commentaries in the dubbing theatre later. And then you'll know as much as I know about Gaudi, the great Spanish architect. Salvador Dali, another great Catalan visionary, used to say of Gaudi's work that his buildings were edible, that he could just take off bite-sized pieces and munch away quite happily. As a young man, Gaudi was a bit of a rebel and very critical of the church. He had a taste for the high life and the looks of a dandy. But in old age, paradoxically, he devoted his time to his art, religion and a Spartan life. Very often, Gaudi would change his mind about the shape and form of his buildings, probably after a few glasses of Tinto at Los Caracoles, and he would rush in the following morning and instruct his builders to do something completely different. They would all sigh, have the odd monumental row, but get on with it anyway. He never married and was killed by a tram. Barcelona was, and still is, I think, the bravest city in Europe, willing to tolerate the excesses of its artistic community, and by doing so, it has enriched the life of the people who live there. Right, Clive, please. You have been looking at the beginning of a famous Catalan dish called Patachou, which means potatoes and cabbage. And it is made with, back into this pot for a second, please. It is made with ribs of pork, spare ribs of pork with a bit of meat on them, onions and courgettes, all ready, simmering away in a lovely, lovely dish of olive oil, okay? By the way, this isn't my kitchen as usual. We begged, borrowed and stolen from my great chum Francine, who I'll introduce you to in a few seconds after I've spun round the rest of the ingredients, which are haricot beans that I've soaked and cooked already. The dish does require cooked haricot beans, cooked potatoes, cooked cabbage, and then the other little bits and pieces are tomato, garlic, cloves, and a bay leaf. So I'll pop some of these tomatoes into there straight away, like so. Salt and pepper at this stage. And then my garlic, bay leaves and cloves. Sorry to be, it's a new kitchen. We haven't ever been here before, as you know. Garlic, bay leaf, and a couple of cloves. Right, now then, this lustrous Francine that I mentioned, we should go and meet her and see what she's doing. So, come and follow me. Hello, Francine.
Hello.
What are you doing?
Oh, romesco de conejo.
That means romesco of rabbit. First of all, Francine fried the pieces of rabbit in olive oil. Then she added a load of very finely chopped onions and sweated them right down till they'd almost disappeared. Then she added some finely chopped tomato and sweated that down till it nearly disappeared. Then she had a little bit of white wine and some seasoning, salt and pepper and stuff like that. While the rabbit simmers, Francine is making another kind of piccata. In Anglo-Saxon kitchens, we tend to thicken stews and sauces with flour and butter, crude but effective. Here, however, she pounds cooked rabbit livers, garlic, hazelnuts, olive oil, the flesh and red peppers, and toasted saffron into a fine paste to thicken the stew. Now, you maybe think that's a lot of work, but it's this very important labour of love that injects such flavour into the dish, it just wouldn't taste the same with flour and butter. Right, by the magic of television... Ow! Ah! By stupidity, I left my little things in there. By the magic of television, this is now cooked for long enough, and I go on to the next phase, which is to add my beans. Lots and lots of beans. Pardon me. Lots of potatoes. Lots of potatoes. And a load of cabbage. And you let all of that simmer away for about 10 minutes before you serve it. And there, as far as I'm concerned, with its beans, its cabbage, its ribs of pork, you have actually got Catalonia on a plate, or, in fact, in a pot. Cheers.
Cheers.
Excellent. Now, let me taste this because it looks fabulous. It's beautiful. It really, really is beautiful. And you know, I don't know which part of the series this program is actually going into, but either way, I have actually been here 3 weeks, and this is the best Spanish meal I've had so far. It's absolutely heavenly. It's really, really good.
Wonderful.
It is. Now, mine, of course, is a less distinguished
Can I
dish,
try?
but do try it. See what you think.
Yes. Yes.
It's okay?
I
Is it
think it's a little more salt, but it's good.
a bit more salt needed? Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's not bad. I mean, I've never cooked that dish before, you know, but this is Catalonia and Britain or unicado or something like that. United,
Yes.
isn't it? So we haven't done too badly.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Muy bien.
Excellent. Barcelona by night, the people throng the streets. And if you can't afford to go to the opera, there's always some exciting and free entertainment. You just stand and stare while they spin manically round the mad music from a really cheap stereo system. If you're feeling a bit lonely and the big city gets you down, you could just drift into a square, sit down by a fountain or under the trees and think and wonder, did he say 8:30? Do you really know what old Antonio was up to last night? It's true, you know, he did. And she may have discovered the same spark that ignited the talents of Dali and Picasso here in this city of lovers. A city that becomes richer as the night goes on, and it's constantly changing gear and never runs out of energy. I could have happily stayed all night just watching, but I have a busy day tomorrow, so for me, it's back to the hotel for cocoa and an improving book. We are in Barcelona's cookery school, where they specialise in teaching young and not so young students how to prepare typical Catalan dishes. They're all busily working away preparing things. I have a chicken dish to do. It's called capo facit, which means stuffed chicken, that's in Catalan. It's a lovely maize-fed farmyard chicken, which I'm going to stuff with, spin around the ingredients, Clive, please, some apricots, some currants, some diced pork, diced bacon, spicy sausages, and pine nuts. And if you can wander around here, I can show you the first bit that I have to do, which is gracias, is, first of all, I must fry these little bits of pork. Okay. And the little bits of bacon. And the sausages. Hold on there. Just a sec. Now, while those simmer gently away, back round here, old bean, please, because I have to chop up the apricots. Now, this strikes me as a very, this has got to have something to do with the Moors, with the Arabs. It's bound to be. These dried fruits are to do with Arabs and North Africa somehow. This must be emphasizing our point that without geography and without history, food doesn't exist. This is clearly an Arab-influenced dish. Right. And while I chop these apricots, the students busy themselves taking the hard skins off these little broad beans. By the way, there are about 100 aspiring chefs here. Oh, and this, a splendid dish of boned-out loin of rabbit. What you do is roll the loin around the liver with a julienne of carrots and leeks and beans, and then it's neatly tied and roasted in a medium hot oven until tender. In fact, it's a very simple, peasanty set of ingredients, yet prepared in this stylish way, you could call it sort of Catalan Nouvelle cuisine, I suppose. It looks good, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed tasting it. Exquisite. Anyway, back to my Arab-style stuffing. Wouldn't this be a thing to do with your goose or duck at Christmas time? I mean, it's a very festive sort of stuffing, isn't it? It doesn't have to go just into a chicken. You can put it into all sorts of other animals, other birds, that is. Anyway, we'll pop all that in there. Well mixed up. Well pushed in. I've incidentally salted and peppered the chicken on the inside. That's about as much as I can get in there, I think. Thank you. When I finished stuffing the bird, I set about stitching it up. With the rock-steady hands of a skilled surgeon, I took the needle, and under watchful eyes, I finally managed to seal the bird up and popped it into the oven for about an hour, where it roasted with all its lovely aromatic flavours. Excellent. Thank you, sir. Now. And now, the proof of the pollo, and marks out of 10 before, no doubt, I'm awarded with a certificate and an honorary degree from Barcelona's cookery school. Thank you very much, sir. Just a basic glaze, made, as you all know, from chicken bones and root vegetables, a little wine allowed to simmer for quite a long time and then thicken with a little tiny bit of flour. Now, the chicken with the fruit and the pine nuts and the sausage and the ham and the bacon. It's almost Eastern. It's mystical. It's a fabulous dish, a mystical little dish. Would you try it, sir?
Again?
Please do.
Beautiful.
Cheers, everybody. Good health. Thank you very much. Acidity. Absolutely splendid. Thank you. A lot of clinking glasses, drinking to all of this. Oh. Good. Acidity. And this is Barcelona's School of Hotel and Catering. I return you to the studio.